Mike, Eric, and Tim chose to ignore the warnings of the old Smith house. As the boys walked up to the house, they could see the broken windows and crumbling porch. It was clear that no one had lived in the house for years. But as they got closer, they could hear strange noises coming from inside. They hesitated at the front door, not knowing if they should go in. But curiosity got the better of them, and Tim pushed open the door. As soon as they entered the house, they knew something was wrong. As the group of teens walked through the old, decrepit house, they were greeted by a musty smell and an eerie silence. The entire town knew the history of Roger Smith and the old Smith house. The boys had heard the rumors of the owner, Roger Smith. He was a brutal businessman that was known to torture his own employees and servants in public. It was not uncommon to see them chained to the home covered in bruises and cuts all over their bodies. Festering wounds would develop from being untreated and exposed to the elements. The boys knew they should turn back, but the thought of exploring a haunted house on Halloween night was too tempting. Even though they were afraid, the boys wanted to see if the rumors were true. They could feel an eerie presence staring at them from the shadows. The hair on their necks stood up as they heard strange noises coming from upstairs. The floors creaked with every step, and the windows were all boarded up, allowing just rays of light to shine through. They were exploring this abandoned house on this Halloween night in search of ghosts. And that was exactly what they found. As the boys made their way down a long hallway, they could see a light on in one of the rooms. It was Roger Smith's old office. As they get closer, they can hear muffled screams coming from there. They peer inside and see a ghostly figure with his back to the door. It is the spirit of Roger Smith torturing his former secretary. Tim lets out a gasp as they watch the horror that was unfolding in front of them. His secretary's screams echo throughout the house as her ghost is chained to his desk, being attacked by the spirit of Roger Smith. Mike and Eric try to pull Tim away, but he can't take his eyes off of the brutality playing out right in front of him. The ghost of Roger Smith turns around and sees the boys in the doorway. He lets out a scream not of this world, commanding the boys to get out of his house. The boys are paralyzed with fear and can't move. The ghost then floats towards them, passing through their bodies. As he does, they can all feel a cold chill that goes straight to their bones. They finally snap out of their trance and begin running to find their way out of this old home. This causes the enraged ghost of Roger Smith to begin hitting his cane against the floor. He screamed madly as he called for his servants. One by one, the spirits of his old servants began to rise up from the floors. These ghosts in the house were disturbingly frightful. As the three friends ran through the old house, they could see that the ghosts of the servants in the home were covered in open wounds and sores. Each sore oozed with a substance resembling a black slime that seemed to move on its own. They were covered from head to toe in large chains that they were forced to carry while alive. The sight was horrifying, and the boys knew that they needed to get out of there as soon as possible. These ghosts moaned and wailed, and their chains clanged as they dragged upon the old wooden floors. The teens ran through the house, and their screams echoed throughout. Mike, Eric, and Tim were running through the old house, trying to escape the ghosts. The ghosts were chasing them, trying to trap the boys into a corner for their boss, Roger Smith. They ran through the last door that led them into the living room. As they passed through, Mike noticed that the furniture was arranged differently than he remembered. Eric and Tim seemed just as confused, but they didn't have time to stop and figure it out. They could hear something coming after them, so they had to keep moving. As they rounded the corner and down the last hallway, they found the front door they came in. Barely escaping for their lives, they heard the ghost of Roger Smith wail one last time, "Get out of my house." The front doors slammed with a violent force and locked seemingly on its own. They ran out across the street and into the forest. The boys leaned against a large oak tree, desperately trying to catch their breaths. As they sat down, they watched as the lights flickered on and off throughout the house for the rest of the night. They could hear the disembodied screams of souls being tortured coming from that old haunted house.